In the summer of 1968, when I was in the seminary, I took a summer semester in New York City at Fordham University, and one of the courses I was interested in and took was called The Philosophies of Mysticism. And I thought, this is the 60s, and it sounded esoteric, so I thought I'd try it out. And it became a pure philosophy class. It was, to my surprise, it dealt with a lot of technicalities, but also with a broad picture of what was going on. And the people who were taking the course with me, they were all lay people, but they were professional teachers, and they were interested in what today is called transcendence. And I will explain that a little bit later. Oh, this is not going to be a philosophy class, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. But what was the issue that they were dealing with? And what did they mean? What is transcendence and immanence? Those were the two words. Well, a few years ago, I had to go into the hospital for one of those examinations. And you always have to take somebody with you to bring you back home because it takes a while to get out of the sedation. And while we were in the reception area, it was full of people, and they were all 2 by 2 by 2. And I was talking to the fellow who had picked me up and was going to take me back. And as we were chatting, he suddenly said, look around. We're the only ones talking. And I thought, well, so I looked around, and everybody in the room had a phone in their hand, and they were doing something with it. And he said, why don't they want to talk to each other? And I thought, well, can I explain it to them or just think about it? And I thought about it, and maybe they were running away from each other. Maybe they were just bored and had to have something to get their attention and keep it. And that reminded me of a question I asked the professor way back in the 60s. I said, what do you think one of the practical effects of not having transcendence, not having a horizon beyond the world we can touch and deal with on a daily basis? And he said, boredom. And I thought, when I was in that room and when I was thinking about it and preparing the homily, that could probably be true. You take something out of the world and you think you have all you need. You think that this is all we have, so let's make the best of it. And you reduce your horizon, you reduce your experience, you reduce or take out something that's vital to keep life alive and interesting. And we term it now God and the angels, or the communion of saints, or heaven, or the fact that there's someone or something that's in the universe, in us, in everything we do, in all of our society needs, because he's not part of it, because God is apart from us. So he can do things, and he can make things happen that no one else can, because his involvement is far different than anything we can be involved with. Our involvement with ourselves and other people and things that we have to do is limited. We can't be totally there. And that's one of the signs that someone can be totally there. And I want, once in a while, I'd like to take the phone away from people. I saw a guy walking down the street, and I was going to say hello to him, and I did, and he was too engrossed in the phone. And I once took the phone out of somebody's hand because they were using it while I was trying to talk to them. Unfortunately, it was my sister, and I'll never do that again. But can you see what's going on? Once in a while, I'll just put the phone in another room because I want to deal with something. And I can't pay attention to it if I have that phone there, knowing that I could just grab it and get away from what I'm doing. Now, maybe people don't use the phone all the time for that, but if somebody's on the phone all the time, then you wonder what the relationship is with the rest of their lives, with the people around them. Now, and I think this was Paul's key. I mean, it's very difficult to understand him when he talks like this, because what he seems to be saying is get rid of all this other stuff, because Christ is going to come again in glory, and this world is passing away, so don't pay attention to it. If you're married, don't pay attention to your spouse. Right. I was talking to the doctor, my doctor once. I have a primary doctor that's really, really good. And I was talking about something about hearing loss. And in men, particularly, the higher ranges go. That's the first sign that you're kind of losing your hearing. And I said, that must be a husband's delight. And he said, oh, no. You don't not pay attention to your spouse when they're talking. And if you can't hear what they say, you say, speak up, or you get closer to them. I said, okay, I got the lesson. So I won't go around saying I can't hear women talking to me. I did that to a friend at lunch, and like my sister, I'll never do that again. But he was saying, put things in perspective, put things in order. You know, God is big, and if we get too caught up in these other things, we're going to miss the significance of them. We're going to miss the deeper things. We're going to miss the ability to connect what we're living with what we're going to be living with when we die. Now, what do we take with us when we die? We don't take anything but the good that we've done. And the good that we've done has been intentional. It's not something that happens just because it happens. It's something we decide that we're going to do or we're going to not do because one thing is good and one thing is not as good as the other good, or something's bad. For some reason in recent year, I have been thinking a lot about death and what's going to happen and what I'm going to be like, or what I'm going to be and what I'm going to have when I go into the next dimension, so to speak. And I'm really hoping that when I gather my life together and present it to God for judgment and sorting out, I won't start smelling smoke and feeling heat. It'd be more like things get very light and there's glory coming down the road and I'm ready to walk into it if I'm able. And I pray that I'll be able to get rid of all the stuff that blocks the way of the gift of eternal life. And that's all that Paul was saying. Don't let anything become an obstacle. These things that God has given us are good, but they're not good with a capital G. Marriage is a sacrament, so you can't throw it away. That's your way of sanctification. Like all sacraments, they're Christ present, sanctifying through his grace. And a good meal is a preparation for the heavenly banquet. Jesus is going to invite us as the bridegroom to the wedding feast. So when you go to a wedding feast, you're getting ready for meeting Jesus because he's going to invite us every week or every day to receive the foretaste of what it's going to be like when we meet him face to face, when he invites us into his communion. We receive him in order to prepare for the great reception with a capital R. And all of these things are very good indeed, but they're only a preparation. And if we put too much effort on them, they crack. You know, a relationship with a spouse is a wonderful thing, but if sometimes you put too much into it, in the sense you expect so much and it doesn't give what you want, then you're beginning to damage the relationship. If we spend so much energy into our occupations or work that we ignore other things, particularly our families, and we're supposed to be in the occupation for our families as well as for people we're dealing with, it breaks down. So what Paul is saying is put things in perspective. Never expect them to be God. Expect them to be gifts of God, but not God himself. And so we have to continually learn how to focus on the central issue. And the sacraments and worship and prayer are the means that we have to always stay focused so that our lives are in good order. And so that when Jesus comes along and says something to us and asks us something, we're ready. You know, the alacrity of these gentlemen when Jesus asked them to become apostles. I don't know if they had a conversation before or during or how long it lasted, but it seems that at the time that he asked, they were ready to say yes. And they dropped everything, their occupations, their relationship with their family in the form of his father, and they followed him. I don't know what happened to his family, and I don't know if they chatted with their wives about what they were going to do, but they did it. And they spent the next 3 years trudging along the rocky roads of Judea and Galilee, following the Master. And we hope, or I hope, that when the time comes to hear his voice, come, follow me, and do it really radically, as in, this is the eternal life being offered to me. Let's be ready for it.